Greetings, class. Thank you for joining me for this discussion on the differences between liberty and freedom in Western civilization. Now, in the contemporary world, we've largely seen these two words used interchangeably. However, if one looks back at the development of these terms over time, there are some differences in what these terms have meant to various philosophers, historians, and scholars. Dr. Carey Roberts offered some great insight concerning the difference between liberty and freedom, stating that freedom actually was of Germanic origin and referred more to association, was a sentiment or tradition, and that liberty had Roman origins and was a certain set of rights that inferred some corresponding duties, and these held certain ideas and values. So we wonder today how these terms kind of got to where they are used so interchangeably. In his work, Reflections on Ancient and Modern Freedom, Alexander Rosenthal-Pubúl discussed the key differences between the more kind of modern liberalist concept of freedom, being from that of freedom from external constraints, versus kind of the idea of the ancient world that was rooted in self-mastery or rational self-government. The more modern side or interpretation was rooted in Thomas Hobbes, who wrote, "A free man is he that in those things which by his strength and wit he is able to do, he is not hindered to do what he has the will to do." Another scholar, Geoff Kennedy, his work, Cicero, Roman Republicanism, and the Contested Meaning of Libertas, notes that scholars like Cicero and other Roman historians argued that freedom was not just freedom from external interference, but it was also independence from the will of others. Now, Cicero actually believed that this idea of unlimited freedom or excess liberty was a problem and could eventually lead to disarray and ultimately tyranny. And so in his writings on liberty and law, he actually discussed and said that we are in bondage to the law so that we might be free. The essence of liberty is to live as you choose. And that freedom is a man's natural power of doing what he pleases, so far as he is not prevented by force or by law. And went on to say that only in states in which the power of the people is supreme has liberty any abode. In his work, The Republic and the Law, Cicero argued that laws were not enough for a just state. There must also be liberty. But if liberty is not equally enjoyed by all citizens, he declared, then it is not liberty at all. Therefore, liberty cannot exist unless the people have supreme power in government. So Cicero looked into the ideal forms of government for upholding natural law, enabling equality and justice, and ensuring liberty. Moria Walsh, in her work, Aristotle's Conception of Freedom, noted that Aristotle often used the term freedom or liberty in a moral and political sense. She stated that Aristotle conceives freedom as the capacity to direct oneself to those ends in which one's reason rightly recognizes as trustworthy. Based on Aristotle's work, such as the Politics, it appears that he has conditions for the free man, one which that he can direct himself towards good desires that he has discovered through his own sense of reasoning and deliberation. So after reviewing these different historical interpretations of freedom, it's quite apparent why these terms are used so interchangeably. However, it appears that freedom has seemed to mean the ability to guide one's own actions, and that liberty then would kind of consist of the absence of controlling restraint, or I would argue, improper controlling restraints. I think it's best summed up with Cicero's statement where he said, "To enjoy de facto freedom of action is not necessarily to enjoy liberty. To enjoy liberty, in other words, it is not sufficient to be free from coercion or threat of it. It is necessary to be free from the possibility of being threatened or coerced." And so therefore, freedom is something that we experience. And the upheld standard of freedom within reason and according to certain values and laws is then the environment of liberty. And so, for instance, in the United States, we are free to act and do as we please so long as it is in accordance with the laws that we not violate someone else's freedom. We're free to live our life how we want, but we cannot just go and destroy someone else's property so there's that responsibility that comes with it. There is some duty that is there in liberty, in this environment of liberty that equates freedom to all people. And so for me, that is kind of my interpretation on the differences and progressions of liberty and freedom to where we are in the Western world today. Thank you.